I've spent most of my life being the placeholder in my family. You know the type. I'm the one who stays behind to clean up the wrapping paper after Christmas. I'm the one who remembers the birthdays, the one who picks up the prescriptions, and the one who everyone assumes will just settle. My sister, Elena, was the polar opposite. She was the main character. She didn't just walk into a room, she conquered it. She was a failed actress turned lifestyle influencer, which is just a fancy way of saying she spent our parents' money on linen sets and ring lights while waiting for a rich husband to materialize. Then there was my mother. To her, Elena was a fragile glass sculpture that needed constant polishing, and I was the sturdy, invisible pedestal holding her up. I accepted it for a long time. I lived in our small coastal hometown in Maine, working a steady but unglamorous job in maritime insurance, while Elena found herself in L.A. on mom's dime. The only person who truly saw me was my great-uncle Silas. Silas was a hermit, plain and simple. He lived 3 miles up the coast in a place called the Shiver House, a massive, gray-wooded monstrosity built onto a jagged cliff overlooking the Atlantic. It wasn't just a house. It was a fortress of salt-stained cedar and secrets. When Silas got sick, Elena didn't call. Mom didn't visit. They said the house gave them the creeps, and that Silas was difficult. I spent 3 years driving up that cliff every single day. I bathed him when he couldn't. I read him the shipping manifests he loved, and I listened. Oh, I listened. Silas didn't talk about the weather. He talked about the weight. He told me the Shiver House wasn't built there for the view. It was built to hold something down. I thought it was just the dementia talking. I really did. When Silas died, last October, the storm finally broke. The will was read in a cramped, wood-paneled office in town. I expected Silas to leave me his books or maybe a small sum of money. But when the lawyer cleared his throat and announced that the entirety of the estate, the house, the surrounding 40 acres of cliffside, and a private offshore account totaling $1.2 million was left solely to me, the silence in the room was deafening. I didn't look at the money. I looked at my mother. Her face went from a mask of mourning to a twisted, ugly snarl in 3 seconds flat. "There's a mistake," she whispered. Silas loved Elena. He always said she had the family spark. Caleb is a clerk. He can't manage a property like that. The lawyer didn't even look up. "The deed is clear, Mrs. Vance. Everything is in a private trust managed by Caleb. It's ironclad." Elena didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just leaned over, her expensive perfume hitting me like a physical blow, and said, "You think you're going to keep it? You're a footnote, Caleb. I'm the story. Watch what happens." I moved into the Shiver House a week later. I had to. Silas's final letter to me, tucked into the deed, was terrifyingly specific. Never leave the hearth cold for more than 12 hours. Never open the red door in the cellar. And for the love of God, Caleb, if you hear the scratching from the well room, turn on the fog sirens. I'm a practical man. I didn't believe in ghosts. But I did believe in Silas. I spent my first month getting the place in order. I hired a private security firm to install cameras, not because of monsters, but because I knew my sister. I also hired a high-end estate attorney to move everything into an irrevocable heritage trust. I didn't want the money. I wanted the protection. The first sign of trouble wasn't a ghost. It was an Instagram post. Elena had posted a photo of herself standing at the gates of the Shiver House, gates I had locked. The caption read, "Big moves, finally reclaiming my family's coastal legacy. Stay tuned for the Shiver House reveal. Hashtag homeowner, hashtag legacy, hashtag new beginnings." I felt a cold pit form in my stomach. She wasn't just lying, she was branding. 2 days later, I was in the kitchen brewing coffee when I heard the sound of a heavy engine. I looked out the window and saw a massive yellow bulldozer idling at the edge of the driveway. Behind was a white Range Rover. Elena hopped out, wearing a hard hat that looked like it cost more than my car, followed by a man in a sharp suit carrying a clipboard. I walked out onto the porch, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Elena? What the hell is this?" She didn't even look at me. She was pointing at the old well house, the small, stone structure Silas had warned me about. The foundation is shot, she told the man with the clipboard. We'll level the stone shed first to make room for the infinity pool. Then we'll strip the gray siding and go with a modern whitewash. Elena, I shouted, stepping off the porch. Get off my property. She finally turned, giving me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It was the same smile she used to give me when she'd break my toys and tell Mom I'd done it myself. Oh, Caleb, didn't you hear? Mom and I spoke to a judge. The will is being contested for undue influence. Since the property is at risk under your lack of care, I've been granted an emergency occupancy permit to begin essential stabilization of the historical site. She waved a piece of paper in the air. I reached for it, but the man in the suit, her contractor, stepped between us. We have a court order, Mr. Vance, he said. You have 48 hours to vacate the primary residence. We're starting the exterior work today. I looked at the paper. It looked official. It had a seal, but I'd spent 10 years in insurance. I knew what a rush job forgery looked like. They hadn't gone to a judge. They'd gone to a print shop and hired a guy who looked like a bailiff. You're going to regret this, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. Is that a threat? Elena laughed, pulling out her phone to film me. Look at him, guys. The caretaker is getting territorial. Don't worry, Caleb. I'll let you stay in the guest cottage once I've scrubbed the smell of old man out of the main house. I didn't argue. I didn't show them the cameras. I just went back inside and locked the door. I called my lawyer, Sonia. Don't leave the house, Sonia told me. They're baiting you. If you leave, they'll change the locks and you'll be fighting a 3-year civil battle to get back in. I'm calling the sheriff and the State Fraud Bureau. That occupancy permit is a felony waiting to happen. But then I heard it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from the floorboards. Specifically, from the direction of the well house outside. The bulldozer was revving its engine. They were going to knock it down. I ran to the window. Elena, stop. You don't understand. You can't break the seal on that stone. She just blew me a kiss and signaled the driver. The bulldozer's blade hit the ancient stone of the well house with a sickening, grinding roar. The stone didn't just crumble. It seemed to shatter, releasing a plume of thick, black dust that didn't dissipate in the wind. It just hung there, coiling around the machinery. The driver stopped. He looked confused. Elena was clapping for her camera. And then the sound started. It wasn't a scream. It was a low, vibrating hum that made my teeth ache. The weight Silas had talked about. I felt the air in the house grow heavy, like I was suddenly underwater. That night didn't leave. They set up a glamping tent on the lawn. Elena wanted to be there for the first night of the renovation. My mother arrived at sunset with a bottle of champagne. I watched them on the security monitors. They were laughing, drinking, talking about how they'd flipped the house for $5 million and moved to Palm Springs. I stayed in the den, clutching Silas's journals. I had the fog siren remote in my hand. At 2 a.m., the monitors went dark. One by one, static swallowed the cameras, starting from the well house and moving toward the main porch. I heard the tent zip open. I heard my mother's voice, sharp and annoyed. Elena, stop messing with the generator. It's pitch black out here. I'm not touching it, Mom. It died. Then a new sound. Drip, drip, drip. It hadn't rained in a week, but the sound of water was everywhere. It sounded like something heavy and wet was being dragged across the gravel. I went to the window. The moon was bright enough to see the lawn. The black dust from the well house hadn't gone away. It had settled into a shape. A tall, impossibly thin shadow was standing right outside their tent. It wasn't a person. It didn't have limbs so much as it had tendrils that seemed to melt into the ground. Caleb, my mother screamed. She had seen it. Caleb, open the door. There's someone out here. There's something wrong. I reached for the deadbolt. My hand was trembling. I wanted to open it. I'm the agreeable one, remember? I'm the one who fixes things. But then I remembered the letter. If you open the door while the weight is moving, you aren't saving them. You're just letting it in. Caleb, open the damn door. Elena's voice was hysterical now. I heard the sound of the tent fabric tearing. I heard the contractor shouting, followed by a wet, choking thud. I didn't open the door. I did something worse. I turned on the porch lights. In the sudden flood of halogen, I saw them. Elena was backed up against the porch railing. Her phone dropped in the dirt. My mother was on her knees. The shadow wasn't a shadow. It was a mass of translucent, sea-slicked organs and ancient, calcified bone, pulsing with a faint, sickly green light. It was the thing the Shiver House was meant to hold down, and it was draped over the contractor like a wet blanket. The will. I yelled through the heavy glass of the window. The trust. You wanted the family spark. Elena? This is it. This is what the Van Cest do. We're the keepers. Help us. Elena shrieked, clawing at the door. I can't. I shouted back, tears streaming down my face. You broke the well. You ended the cycle. It has to feed before it goes back down. That was a lie. I didn't know if it had to feed. But I knew that if I let them in, I would be the next one on the grass. I pressed the button for the fog siren. The sound was earth-shattering. A massive, mournful BRAWRRRR that shook the foundation of the house. The creature flinched, its translucent body rippling like disturbed water. It hated the frequency. It began to retreat, dragging the unconscious contractor toward the shattered well house. But it wasn't done. A tendril, thin as a whip, lashed out and caught my mother's ankle. Caleb! Caleb! I watched as my mother was yanked across the lawn. I watched as Elena, my brave, main character sister, didn't reach out to grab her. She didn't try to help. Instead, Elena scrambled over the porch railing and ran, not toward the house, but toward a Range Rover. She hopped in, floored it, and peeled out down the driveway, leaving her mother screaming in the dirt. I hit the siren again, and again. The creature reached the edge of the shattered stones. It paused, looking back at the house, or maybe at me. Then, with a sound like a heavy, wet lung collapsing, it slid back into the darkness of the earth, pulling the contractor with it. It let go of my mother at the last second. The silence that followed was heavier than the siren. The police arrived 40 minutes later. Sonia was with them. They found my mother curled in a fetal position on the gravel, her hair turned white. Literally white. The contractor was gone. Missing, the report would say. Likely fell off the cliff during the storm. What storm? There wasn't a cloud in the sky, but the police didn't seem to notice. They just saw the black dust and the shattered well and kept their distance. Elena was found 3 hours later, crashed into a ditch 5 miles away. She was incoherent, babbling about the green bones and the breathing dirt. A month has passed since that night. The legal battle ended instantly. My mother signed a document, a real one this time, relinquishing any and all claims to the Vance estate. She lives in a specialized care facility now. She doesn't talk. She just sits by the window and watches the rain. Elena's brand is dead. The footage from that night, the part she recorded before she dropped her phone, was corrupted by the electromagnetic interference of the creature. All that's left is a video of her screaming at a pile of dust while her mother shrieks in the background. It went viral, but not the way she wanted. She's a pariah now, the girl who left her mom to die. I'm still at the Shiver House. I spent $200,000 of Silas's money on a crew of specialized masons. We didn't just fix the well house. We encased it in 6 feet of reinforced concrete and lead. I keep the hearth fires burning 24 hours a day. I have 3 backup generators and a direct line to the sheriff. Sometimes, late at night, I hear a faint humming through the floorboards. It's not the wind. It's the weight. It's waiting for me to get tired. It's waiting for me to be the quiet one again. But I'm not quiet anymore. I'm a keeper. And in this family, the footnote finally became the whole damn book. I think Uncle Silas would be proud. Or maybe he'd just be terrified. Either way, the house is mine. And nothing, not the law, not my family, and certainly not the things in the dirt, is taking it back. I'm currently looking into buying the neighboring 40 acres. Not because I want to build, but because I want to make sure no one ever digs a hole in this ground again. Would you like me to tell you what I found in Silas's journals about why the weight chose our family in the first place?